Okay, so what we're doing right now is take a look at my game. If I share my game, okay, right now, I want you to take a look particularly what happens. We're going to press play, okay? Now, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to die really quickly, okay? I'm going to just get this to kill me really quickly. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, he's dead. But what I wanted you to take a look at is this. It still respawns. We're going to wait a few more seconds as well. And if we don't do anything, what happens is, take a look. All these enemy clones, we're going to get another one. Boom, we're going to get another one. We're going to get another one. We don't want that. We actually want to store these clones in something else, okay? We want to store them in a container that will handle all the memory, okay? And what we have to do in order to do that successfully is we have to create an object that has what we call a child-parent relationship, okay? So I'm going to go really slow. We're recording. Peyton, hope you're having a good car ride to Joshua Tree. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Spawn Manager. I'm going to go very slow because there's not a lot that we have to do to set this up. I'm going to right-click on Spawn Manager. Whoops. Right-click. I'm going to go to Create Empty. We are going to create an empty object. And what happens is you'll take a look that it moves over. It's a sub, okay, or what we call a child of the parent class. I'm going to come up to here where it says game object in my inspector and take a look. I'm going to call it enemy underscore container. I'm going to hit enter. Enemy underscore container. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Spawn Manager code. I already have mine open, I believe. Okay, good. Do I? Yes, I do. Okay, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and forth in a second, is I am going to create a container. I'm going to create a game object, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say private game object. Okay, and basically think of it this way, guys. Whenever we use game objects, we're going to be creating something. Okay, we're basically creating an element. In this case, we're going to be creating the enemy. Okay, we already have enemy prefab, but that's different. That's just calling on the prefab. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to basically call on the container. So we're going to say enemy container. Now again, all I've done is I've said private game object enemy container. Can you guys see my code well? Now, I want to be able to change this in Unity. So what special line do I have to add? I want to be able to drag and drop something in this. So what do I need to do to this? Remember? Huh?
Serialize it?
Serialize, very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to serialize the field. Very good. I'm now going to save my code. I'm now going to go back to my game. And you guys are familiar with this. Take a look what's going to happen. Okay. I'm going to click on my spawn. Now you'll notice it'll do, now it's doing my little wheel of death. We didn't really do anything. Okay. So I go to my Spawn Manager. I click on my Spawn Manager. Oh, look, remember, this is where we drag the enemy in. You'll notice now we have enemy container. So what we're going to do is from the hierarchy, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to drag it to the container. Basically, container to container. Do not drag the Spawn Manager. Enemy container to enemy container. Now the script is located in the Spawn Manager, but don't make any mistakes. If you click on enemy container, it should look like this. Understood? Now let's talk really quickly about the child parent class, okay? Enemy container is what we call an inherited class, okay? An inherited class from Spawn Manager. What that basically means is it is going, even though it's its own object, it's going to follow all the rules of the spawn manager. Okay, so it's going to act, it's going to instantiate the same way, it's going to drop the same way, it's going to be labeled the same way, it's going to get everything from the parent, just like inheritance happens. So that being said, we don't need to do anything else here. I'm going to go back to my spawn manager script. Okay, now let's go down to here to our game object. Okay, let's go down to our game object. Now, instantiate enemy prefab. Okay, instantiate enemy prefab. Basically, what is happening right now is we are creating an object on the screen, and it's taking up enemy, and it will just keep going and keep going and keep going. But we're going to make what we're going to do is, rather than instantiating it just at what we call the root level, we're going to make a game object out of this instantiation. So rather than just putting things on here, like just basically every time we're instantiating, so this is the best way to say it, guys. Every time we're instantiating something, we're putting one fresh one here, then another fresh one here, then another fresh one here. Whereas what we're going to do right now is we're going to have one container, and we're going to just add these into the single container, and then the container will control everything. So in order to do that, I'm going to go right here to instantiate. I'm going to say game object new enemy equals game object new enemy equals. So what I just did is I created an object called new enemy. New enemy is basically going to be a version of the enemy prefab. Again, it's going to spawn here at anywhere randomly on the X, at 7 on the Y, 0 on the Z. And again, who remembers what quaternion.identity means? Who remembers? Anyone? Quaternion.identity has to do with the rotation. Remember? It has to do with the rotation. All right. So what we're going to do is, rather than quaternion.identity, we're not going to touch it. Okay. That one again, I want to explain what instantiate again. I want you guys to have an idea of what this means. How many of you guys in English class have ever heard the word, an instance of? For instance, like as an example. Okay, how many of you guys have heard that term? For instance. Okay, instantiate in programming basically makes, when you are saying make an instance. In programming, we have what are called objects. They're not real things. We're lucky in Unity, they are real things because we can see them. So our instance in this case is the enemy. So what we are basically saying is when we say instantiate, this is code for you're about to create something. So instantiate, it needs 3 things in order to work properly. 1, the first thing, what are you going to create? The enemy prefab. 2, I need to know where you want it created. What we did is we created a new, if you guys remember what this line above was, it was creating a new range, and we put the range where we want it. And do you want to rotate it? No, we don't. This quaternion.identity, guys, we don't ever really, sometimes you'll use it, but we don't really need to use it. So you just have to understand that it's here. Now, what's the one thing that we're missing? What's the one thing that you would expect to be there? Johnny, what do you think should be there? Remember, Johnny, when you're in my hood, take off your hood. Okay. So what are you missing? Chris. So we've covered what we're creating, the position, the rotation. What are we missing? Who can help him out? Ethan. Anyone, come on, anyone, blurt it out. Come on, guys. Think of your 3 buttons in Unity that you needed to know. What was the third one? Position, rotation, anyone. Yeah, Ethan.
The scale.
Scale. Notice there's nothing for scale. Okay? And the reason why there isn't anything for scale is because Unity just assumes that whatever you're creating, you've already made it the dimensions that you want it. That's why there's no scale. Does that make sense? Okay, so going back to the code. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our next line right after the semicolon. Okay? And we're now, what this new line is going to do is it's going to attach the new enemy to the container. So we're going to say new enemy dot transform dot parent, okay, equals enemy container dot transform. Now what you have just done is basically said, okay, the parent class, anything in the parent class will now just immediately go straight to the container class. Okay, so now if I run this, I'm going to save this. So now if I run this, take a look what happens. I'm going to run this now. Look. Oh, specifically take a look at my hierarchy. I can drop this and see how many clones are here, but now everything is contained within the container, saving us memory. Okay? So this is where we want to be right now. It's so much cleaner, it's nicer, and it's not going to drag a lot of memory. So I'm going to stop this right now. Now, going back to our code. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we still have something that's happening. We still have something that's happening. Asher, what happens? What do we notice that's kind of off with our code?
With what's happening in game?
Right now, even if we die, is this still running?
The game's still running, yeah.
Yeah. So what we have to do is we have to create some logic to tell the game, okay, stop. All right. So we're going to come up here above our container. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to create private Boolean. Okay. Stop spawning. And we're going to set it equal to true. Now, bool. Bool is short for the word Boolean. Boolean is a programming variable that can only hold two things. It can hold true, or it can hold false. Okay? Either one. It can hold true or it can hold false. Okay? We can hold either one. So what we want to do is right now we're going to set this to false. Now, what else have we learned that runs based on Boolean? This while loop right here. Okay. Now, the downside about this while true is right now we don't ever have anything to ever tell it to stop. So what we're going to do is we're going to say stop spawning is equal to false. Now take a look that I used two equal signs. I went over this earlier. In programming, when you have one equal sign, you use that when you are trying to give a variable a value. When I use two equal sign, it's like I'm saying is something equal to something else. That's what two equal signs means, okay? Equals equals, all right? And in this case, what we're going to do right now is we are going to go outside of our enumerator. Take a look. This is my closing of my while. Excuse me. This is the closing of my spawn routine. I'm going to create a new method. Public void on player death. I'm going to open parentheses, close parentheses, and I'm going to say stop spawning is equal to true. Now, there's two reasons why I do this. This up here is going to change, okay? Right now, we can leave it as is. It's still going to run. But here's where the logic, here's where I want us to think, okay? This is where I want us to actually talk about this, okay? Right now, where are the lives located? Where are our lives located? Which class? Huh? Where?
Wait, what do you mean by which class?
So how many, so when I say, okay, so which script? Okay, in Objective-C, so in C#, right now we're learning C#. In C#, scripts, in the general programming language, we call them classes, okay? So if you ever hear me say the word class, you guys gotta remember that in one day, I teach 3 different languages. So if my brain is like having a brain fart or whatever, and I'm using the wrong terminology, that kind of tells you what terminology I'm going for, okay? So, hold on. Other class, you're 5 minutes early. Hazel, you're 5 minutes early. Thank you. All right. So what's happening now is, so that being said, class or script, Hasten, where are our lives located?
In a player?
Bingo. And what class are we in?
A spawn manager?
Exactly. So what other instance is there, have we already gone from one class to another? And if so, which classes? Come on, guys, you know this.
For mine, I have score script with enemy.
Scoreboard, so we have enemy that took lives when enemy hit. If you guys remember, the enemy hits the square. It takes a look for collision detection with the player class, but we had to call on the player class. And then if collision detection happens, they both disappear. So what we now need to do on Tuesday when we meet, we're gonna go into the player class and we're gonna pull the lives in order to do that logic, okay? So that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna upload, so I'm gonna take a couple minutes because I have class in a few. I'm gonna stop recording right now. On the topics page, you can expect the updated Spawn Manager code to be there along with this class. This class, I feel like I taught this a little bit smoother than the last class. So this will be online for your Spawn Manager, okay? All right, guys, great class. Good job. I will talk to you guys on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.